The Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities uses a wide range of trucks for all types of road maintenance jobs, from hauling tons of aggregate, asphalt mixtures, and snow, to towing crack sealers, air compressors, plowing snow, and sanding slick roads. Trucks are vital to keeping Alaska's highways in good condition. Because trucks are so important to our highway maintenance and operations, you'll need to know how to keep your truck in top working condition and how to operate it safely and properly. This program is the first of 2 parts dealing with dump truck maintenance and operation. Part 1 covers the daily checks and inspections, and also the proper startup and shutdown procedures for your truck. Part 2 covers some basic truck operations, as well as working with trailers and other equipment. Because DOT has different trucks from different manufacturers, you'll want to become familiar with the operator's manual for the unit you're operating. Take the time to read the manual and note any items that may be different from other models you've worked with before. Before leaving the yard each day, you'll need to make sure the truck is in good condition and ready to go by performing the daily checks. The daily checks always include an engine inspection, the in-cab check when you start the engine, and a walk-around inspection of the vehicle. It should also include checks of the dump bed if you're using the dump bed during the day. Start under the hood in the engine compartment. Give everything a good look. If anything needs to be fixed, now is the time to find out before you're out on a job. Check the level of the power steering fluid and inspect the hoses, connections, and fan belt while you're at it. Check the engine oil every day. Keep the level between the full and add marks on the dipstick. And note the condition of the oil, especially if the level is higher today than it was yesterday. If it's discolored, gritty, or smells of fuel, don't start the engine until you've determined the problem and corrected it. Then, visually check the engine compartment for signs of fluid leaks or other obvious problems. Look at the fuel filter and fuel lines, checking for leaks. Inspect the fan blade and belts. Check the level of all fluids, even the windshield wiper fluid. Check the air cleaner and the date of its last replacement. You'll have to examine the automatic transmission oil when the engine is running, so make a note to do that in the next stage of your inspection. Check the turbo and exhaust system. Black soot may indicate a serious problem. Now, observe the coolant level. Keep it at the level recommended by the manufacturer. Use the sight level on newer trucks and the cap on older models. If you can see coolant in the glass, you've got enough. Next, check the alternator belts. If they're too loose, tighten them. If they're worn or cracked, replace them. Take a look at the suspension. Examine the brakes and hoses. Once everything looks good, you're ready to start the in-cab checks. In order for you to conduct your in-cab inspection, you're going to need to start the engine. So, I'll go over the basic startup procedure. First, make sure the parking brake is set and the transmission is in neutral. Then, depress the clutch pedal if it has one. Put your foot on the service brake pedal. Then, turn the key to the on position. Stop. At this time, most of the newer trucks will go through a self-diagnostic test. Be sure that all gauges move and return. If one fails to move or return, then you'll need to have it checked. If all are working, then go ahead and turn the key to start it up. The engine should start right up. If the engine doesn't start right away, keep the starter engaged, but only for no more than 30 seconds. If it doesn't start, release the button and wait a minute or two before trying again. Continued cranking will just wear down the battery and may damage the starter. Once the engine starts, let it idle to warm up. Never rev a cold engine. For cold weather starts, each truck will have a procedure. Check the operator's manual. Never use ether until all other recommended procedures have been tried. The warm-up period is important for several reasons. First, it allows time for oil pressure to build up, producing an oil film on internal engine parts and lubricating turbocharger bearings. The warm-up also allows the pistons to expand to fit the cylinders. It allows the coolant temperature to increase, and it provides time for air pressure to build up in the braking system. A warning light and buzzer will stay on until the air pressure reaches 60 pounds. You should get an oil pressure reading right away, so check the gauge. If it shows 0 or low pressure, shut down the engine. This indicates a major problem. Finally, the warm-up period gives you time to do the walk-around inspection. A walk-around inspection allows you to get an overall look at the vehicle, as well as inspect individual components that need attention every day. Anything that is worn, cracked, leaking, or broken should be replaced right away. Everything should be securely attached as well, and if it's not, fix it before leaving the yard. Check the tires every day for deep cuts or unusual wear on the treads and sidewalls. Look at the tread depth too. Check for proper inflation using a pressure gauge at least once a week, or if they look low. Underinflated tires wear out quickly and make the truck harder to control. The front hubs are lubricated with oil, so you'll need to check the level. If the oil level is low, remove the cap and add more. Look for any cracks in the plastic where the oil could leak. Also, check for loose and broken lug nuts. Walk all the way around the truck, checking the tires, looking for leaks, noting anything broken or missing. If there's any body damage, report it now. Drain the air tanks. Check the mud flaps for wear and tear. Take a good look at the battery. Be sure the terminals are clean, and check the tightness and the condition of the clamps and cables. Make sure the mirrors are secure and clean. You don't want anything obscuring your view. Take a look at all of the hoses for any cracks or leaks. Check on the ground for any drips. Check over the hydraulic control compartment. Look at the hoses and oil level. Any leaks will need to be fixed. Check the filter and make a note of its last replacement. And give the fuel tank a glance, making certain that it is secure and not leaking. The dump box should not have any cracks, and look for any damage to the dump latch linkage and wires under the box. If you'll be using the dump bed today, now is a good time for a thorough check. Be sure that the bed is empty and clean. Check for bed damage. Raise the bed and always block it with the safety props or a sturdy block of wood before putting yourself under it. Check hydraulic leaks around the ram and lines. Listen for air leaks in the brake system. It's also important to check the hitch, so take a moment to look at that too. Pay attention to the rear suspension for broken leaf springs and bushing wear. Check the condition of your lights. Wipe them clean of any debris. Check on the exhaust stack. It should be attached firmly. Finally, take a look at the brake cans and linkage. Most of our trucks have auto-adjust brake systems, so we need to make certain they are working properly. Next, check the lights. Headlights, running lights, turn signals, strobe. Check them in back too. Use help to check the backup lights and brake lights. If a light isn't working, it may be a loose wire or a burned out bulb. Place the transmission in reverse to check the backup alarm. The alarm was developed to prevent injuries and deaths on the job, so never disconnect it and never operate a truck with a broken alarm. Check the brakes. First, set the emergency brake and put the truck in gear. Then, with the pressure build up to at least 60 pounds, shut off the engine. Depress the brake pedal for about 4 seconds and listen for escaping air. Watch the gauge. It should fall off about 3 to 4 pounds. If it falls off any more than that, there's a leak in the system. Now would be a good time to pay attention to a couple of housekeeping items. Keep the windshield, windows, and mirrors clean. Adjust the mirrors if necessary. Take a moment to clean out the cab of any trash. Loose trash can become a distraction while driving. Make sure you have your safety equipment and the radios work. Now to finish the in-cab checks. Look at the gauges. The truck's been warming up for a few minutes, so all the readings should be up. The oil pressure should be about 60 pounds per square inch. The air pressure gauge should be above 60 psi before the brakes will release. However, wait until the air pressure is between 90 and 120 before you take the truck out on the road. Check the ammeter and voltmeter to make sure the charging system is working properly. Also, check the air filter restriction indicator. It'll let you know when the air filter should be cleaned or replaced. Finally, check your fuel gauge. The last person using it should have fueled it. And buckle up. It's the law. You can start out as soon as you get the reading from the temperature gauge. But move slowly and avoid hard pulls until the engine reaches normal operating temperature between 180 to 190 degrees. And those are the daily checks. Now, there's one last thing to do, and it's very important. You need to sign off on the daily inspection sheet that's in every truck. Make sure you checked all the parts of the truck on the list. While it's a requirement of the job, there are also some pretty good reasons for it. It's a good list of the safety items to cover on your daily checks. It makes you and the equipment safer out on the road. Last but not least, if any problems are noted, there's a record of you doing the checks and taking care of your responsibilities on your shift. It's DOT policy and good operator practice. Most of what you need to check on your truck you'll take a look at every day before you head out. But there are a few things that you'll need to check on if you've been regularly using the truck, or as part of your daily checks if it's your first time in it in a while. First, you'll need to check out the automatic transmission level if the truck has an automatic transmission. If it's low, add the right type of fluid. Next, inspect the brake system. While the brakes are being applied, measure the canister rod. It should extend less than 3/4 of an inch. If it extends more than 3/4 of an inch, then the brake needs to be adjusted. If adjustments are needed, then have State Equipment Fleet personnel, or personnel approved by them, make the adjustments. Next is greasing. There is a lubrication chart in the truck and in the operator's manual. Refer to it to find the locations of the fittings and the recommended service intervals. Generally, grease the parts that get more wear. Lube the chassis, door hinges, hinge pins, locks, clutch linkage, and U-joints. Once you make the daily inspections and regular maintenance procedures part of your daily routine, they'll go quickly. Let's cover the shutdown routine before moving on to the actual truck operations. Obviously, there's more to shutting down than just parking and shutting off the engine. If you're not parking in the shed, be sure to park on fairly level ground. Put the transmission in neutral and set the parking brake. This is important because if a diesel truck with a manual transmission is parked in gear and it begins to roll, the engine could start from heat of compression. So, transmission in neutral, parking brake set, and a level parking spot if possible. If you have to park on a grade, block the wheels or turn them. Now, engines should idle for 3 to 5 minutes to cool down gradually. The idling allows the lubricating oil and the antifreeze to carry the heat away from the large mass of the engine block. Then, get out and do a quick walk-around inspection. Just a general look for obvious damage. Finding any problem now will allow you to get it corrected that much sooner. Fill the fuel tank at the end of the shift. It'll save you or the next person who operates it some time, and also help prevent condensation in the tanks. Just be sure to go through the cool down period first, because you have to shut off the engine while you fuel up. So once the engine is cooled enough and the truck is parked where you want it, shut down the engine. It's a good idea to check the power steering fluid when the engine is still warm, but never overfill it or any other fluid. That's usually as bad as not having enough. And finally, bleed the air tanks. Draining them will get rid of any moisture built up in the system. That sums up the basic inspections and procedures for your dump truck, one of the most important pieces of equipment on the road. Starting it up properly, conducting regular inspections, and following shutdown procedures will help keep it running smoothly and safely. This is part 2 in the dump truck program. In this part of the video series, we'll introduce some of the basic dump truck operations such as shifting, driving, braking, turning, backing, loading, and dumping. We work with the truck more than any other piece of equipment in road maintenance. As a result, there's a lot more to learn about dump trucks than we could cover in this video. Talk to your supervisor if you have questions about any of these basic operations or want to learn more. Knowing how to use the transmission correctly is about the most important skill a truck operator can have, and it's probably the hardest to learn. Our tandem axle dump trucks have two types of transmissions: a 15-speed manual transmission or an automatic transmission. Be sure to read the operator's manual for instructions on shifting gears in the truck you'll be operating. Both the automatic and manual transmissions need to be operated correctly, or you could damage a very expensive piece of equipment. The shift pattern for your truck is also etched on the gear shift knob, shown on a card attached to the sun visor or on a sticker on the dash of the truck. Learn the position for each gear. The only hard and fast rules are these. Always start and park the truck in the low range. Never shift ranges while moving in reverse. Stop the truck first, then shift. And finally, don't ride the clutch. If you're using an automatic transmission, never idle it in forward or reverse gear for more than 5 minutes. Some things to remember about driving your truck in general. The public judges us more on how we drive our trucks than how we operate all other types of equipment put together. You need to develop good driving habits and follow them consistently. Use your mirrors. Know what's behind you, as well as what's up ahead. Steer with both hands on the wheel, except when you're shifting or using the radio. Stay within the lane lines and obey lane markings. Signal when you change lanes. Observe all traffic laws and speed limits. And remember, go slower than the posted speeds when road conditions, traffic, or your load require it. Keep a good safety cushion between you and the vehicle ahead. And finally, use all your skills and good judgment when driving in bad weather. DOT's trucks carry a lot of weight, and once they get rolling, it takes a lot of force to slow them down. But by practicing good habits, you'll increase your level of safety when braking. Drive at a safe speed to begin with. Anticipate the need to slow down or stop. Begin applying the brakes sooner than with a lighter vehicle. Downshift properly to let the truck's engine help the braking. And for downgrades, slow down, shift to a lower gear, and stay in that gear as you go downhill. This helps you maintain steering control. On steep hills, never use your brakes alone. There's always potential for the truck to slide and the wheels to lock up. And perhaps most important, always anticipate and travel at a safe speed which is consistent with the road, traffic, and weather. Our tandem axle trucks are equipped with engine brakes called Jacobs brakes, or Jake brakes. These are hydraulic engine attachments that slow down the drive wheels by absorbing the engine's power through air compression. The engine brake is controlled by a dash switch and activates automatically when you depress or release the clutch and accelerator pedals. Take a look at your truck's Jake brake instructions decal in the cab and check the manual. Use your Jake brake and transmission to control your speed going downhill. Be aware, too, that some communities have laws that regulate the use of these. Know where and when before you get a ticket. Now let's turn our attention to turning, backing, and loading, starting with turning. Keep your tires at the right pressure. That'll make it easier and safer to control your truck when turning and going around curves and intersections. Because of the size of the truck and the weight that it will often be carrying, you'll need to be careful when you make turns. Signal well in advance. Slow down. Stay in your lane throughout the turn. Be especially careful not to cut right turns too sharp. On curves, not only slow down in advance, but downshift as well. Go in under power and keep both your engine and road speeds up. Now, backing. Backing up is the most accident-prone driving maneuver. The design of the truck restricts your vision to what you can see in your mirrors, and it's what you can't see that will cause you the problem. Those blind spots are large enough to hide fixed objects, equipment, people, or even an entire car from your view. First, get out of the cab and check behind the truck, especially if you're stopped in one place for more than a few minutes. Use reference points or a spotter to guide you. Use your mirrors and don't lean out of the cab. Keep in mind that mirrors do distort distance, especially the convex or spot mirrors. Objects may appear farther away than they really are. Back up at a safe, slow speed. And make sure the backup alarm is working. Although most of the pointers about loading trucks are covered in the front-end loader video, there are some things for the dump truck operator to consider. Park close to the material and the loader to minimize the loader's travel distance. Park at about a 45-degree angle to the face of the stockpile. This way, the loader can follow a V-shaped path to travel less distance and do less turning to load your truck. That means less fuel burned and faster loading times, which makes a difference in production rates. There will be occasions when you'll load your own truck, but don't allow it to be overloaded by whoever does the work, because you, the operator, are responsible for observing weight limits. Finally, a couple of points about safety. During loading, if you're not the one in the loader cab, stay either inside the truck cab or well away from both pieces of equipment. Take the time to clean off excess material spilled on the sides or end of the truck during loading. If you don't, it could fly off and break someone's windshield. Next, we'll cover dumping. All of our trucks have what is called a live PTO. That's when the hydraulic system is on all the time. Now, in our newer tandem axle dump trucks, and in some of our older ones too, there are electronic over-hydraulic controls. These controls are on a panel next to the operator's seat. Not only do they operate the truck's dump body, but also any other attachment the truck may have. This can include trailers with hydraulic systems like pups or snow plows, snow wings, underbody plows, and a sander when they are attached. The controls are pretty simple. The important part to remember is that there are a variety of controls in our trucks. Become familiar with the controls in each truck you operate. Always position your truck so that it is as level as possible when you dump. Make sure there are no overhead obstructions like electrical wires. To dump a load, first put the transmission in neutral and apply the brake. Move the hoist control. Speed up the engine just enough to raise the bed smoothly. And pull the tailgate switch. After you've dumped the load, drive slowly ahead a few feet to clear the pile. One caution here, with the bed up, sudden jerky movements may damage the hydraulic ram. To lower the bed, move the hoist lever. After the bed is down, relatch the tailgate. If there is any loose material on the truck, brush it off. Now, spreading. Okay, spreading is similar to dumping with a few added steps. First, you regulate the flow of material from the bed by adjusting the tailgate spreader chains to control the size of the tailgate opening. Then, you position the truck ahead of the spread area. Start raising the bed. Again, make sure there is nothing overhead. Drive forward and trip the tailgate latch. Continue raising the bed smoothly. Dump trucks work with several other types of equipment that hook up to the truck. You'll have to become an expert on how to hook up and unhook the trailer and tow it safely, as well as the daily checks you'll need to perform. Other training videos cover loading the trailer and securing the load. Talk to your supervisor if you'd like to review those materials. The trailer is attached to the truck and towed by means of a tongue. The lights and air pressure for its brakes come through a cable and hoses that connect at the rear of the truck. So, to hook up the trailer to the truck, back up the truck toward the tongue. If possible, get someone to guide you. That'll make hooking up faster and easier. But if you have to do it alone, be patient and careful. The tongue should be raised, supported by the built-in jack. You may need to jockey the truck around somewhat to get it lined up with the tongue. Once the truck's in position, take a look at the hitch to see if it's aligned for hookup. Make sure that the trailer's cable and hoses are safely out of the way so they won't get run over. Then back up until the hitch makes contact with the tongue. If the tongue doesn't connect on its own, you may need to manually move it or jockey the truck once more until the tongue falls into place. Secure the jack in place with a cotter pin. Lock the tongue hitch and insert the pin to secure the hookup. Best to double check this one. Attach one air hose. Connect the electrical cable and hook up the safety chain. The safety chain is always critical just in case somehow the tongue is unhitched from the truck. Then attach the other air hose. With the trailer hooked up to the truck, complete your daily checks. Check for loose lug nuts, tire condition, and inflation. Clean off the brake lights and turn signals, and the reflectors, both front and rear. In addition to good driving habits that you use in your trucks, pulling a trailer requires that you keep a couple of additional things in mind. When both the trailer and truck are loaded, there is more weight behind you than when you're driving the truck alone. So plan on using those good driving habits and allow for more distance between you and the next vehicle and even more room to stop. Now turning. When you're towing a trailer, your outfit's not only a lot heavier, but a lot longer too. When you turn around a curve, the trailer takes a shorter path than your truck does. So for curves to the right, keep your left side truck tires close to the left edge of your lane. The trailer will take a more inside track, closer to the pavement edge. And for curves to the left, keep your right side tires running near the pavement edge, so that the trailer tires won't cross over into the oncoming lane. Be even more cautious when turning corners. Cutting a right turn too sharp will mean running over the curb, into a ditch, or over a sign. And cutting a left turn too sharp will pull the trailer over the center line and into contact with any car or truck stopped at the intersection. Finally, backing. Use your mirrors for backing up. And remember this, the trailer will back in the direction opposite to the way you turn the steering wheel. So back up only when necessary, and do it slowly and carefully. And towing a trailer makes your mirrors even more important than usual. When unhooking the trailer, make sure it's on level ground, blocking the wheels if necessary. Pull the safety pin from the hitch, raise the hitch, and unhook the safety chain. Pull the cover pin and lower the jack. Raise the tongue slightly and disconnect the air hoses and electrical cable. Then, drive the truck forward and stow the ends of the hoses and cables safely on the tongue to keep dirt and moisture out and to prevent them from being run over. This concludes the video on trucks. We've covered the basics on how to keep your truck in top working condition and how to operate it safely and properly. Of course, your training and education as an operator are ongoing. Be familiar with the operator's manual for your truck and ask your supervisor if you have any questions. Remember, you are responsible for your actions and equipment. The skillful and safe operation of your equipment will help you get your work done efficiently, and that's a big part of keeping Alaska's highways in good shape.